NFL Daily is made possible by Manscaped. Make sure your trimmer is the new and improved Lawnmower 5.0. Get 20% off and free shipping on that and all of Manscaped's products by going to manscaped.com/chat. The NFL franchise tag window is now open. It will close on March 5th. That is when teams must decide whether or not to use the franchise tag. We will break down one candidate for each NFL team. Do make note, not every team's going to use it. And also make note, the projections you'll see for the money are based on the over-the-cap figures. Those could, and I would not be surprised if they changed by $1 million, $2 million, maybe $3 million. You'll see some different numbers based on what outlet you use, but it gives you a really good rough ballpark, even close ballpark. First up, the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to go with Justin Madubuike over Patrick Queen and over Geno Stone. The steady growth and breakout season happened for Madubuike. I think he makes more as a tag candidate because, A, I think he'll command more on the open market than good players like Stone and Queen will, plus the Ravens are already paying Roquan Smith. Meanwhile, Madubuike 13 sacks this year. The impact of that level from the interior of the defensive line is incredibly valuable. Bengals wide receiver Tee Higgins. Can't tell, we're going grouping in divisions here. Higgins' numbers dropped this year. Now, injuries, some drops, quarterback play, all a big factor in that. The wide receiver market, once the tags are applied, is not going to be that appealing. I would fully expect the Bengals to tag Tee Higgins. I'd be shocked if they didn't tag him. The question is, if they do tag him, will they also pay him, or could they look to trade him? What do you think ends up happening with Tee Higgins? P for pay, F for franchise tag, T for trade. Go vote in the comments section. Not many good options here for the Browns. You'll notice Zadarius Smith listed as outside linebacker. You'll see different numbers for linebacker and defensive end. The NFL does not differentiate between edge rusher and inside linebacker. It's just defensive end, outside linebacker. That will cause issues elsewhere. Almost $22 million. He's not going to get the tag. Levi Wallace can be a low-end starter here. However, you're not going to pay him $18.42 million. That's just not going to happen at all. So, too much from that perspective. Moving on now to the NFC South. Calais Campbell, good football player, not $19.75 million worth. Don't expect the tag applied in Atlanta. Do expect one applied on Brian Burns. Now, again, defensive end. You might see that number drop to maybe $21 million. We shall see. The Panthers once rejected big offers for Burns in the past. He's been a pretty consistent pass rush force. At minimum, he's going to get tagged. One note, if you see players tagged earlier in this window, that normally means they are open to trading that player. Keep an eye on when Burns gets tagged, but he's not going to reach the open market. The Saints literally can't apply the franchise tag right now. They're so far over the cap, it makes no sense. Plus, they have no good options. The best one is maybe Isaac Yada. Antoine Winfield is next up. And there's a lot to break down in this one. This is the report right now that Winfield is most likely to get the tag. $17.22 million. He is an awesome football player. If he were to make the open market, he'd be probably a top 5-ish free agent this year. There are other options. Levante David's a damn good linebacker, but the lack of differentiation between inside linebacker and edge makes it too expensive. Mike Evans' figure is actually crazy high because of the way the final year of his deal was structured. $28 million to tag him. It's just not going to happen. Keep an eye on Baker Mayfield. That one is a good one to monitor here because it'd be around $35 million. You also run the risk of him not getting to the open market. You could let's sign him shorter. More on that in a minute here. Antoine Winfield, though, is a really good football player. He consistently makes plays around the football. He can tackle, he can run, he can cover. I think he's one of the more underrated safeties in the game, even despite the All-Pro love, etc. Love Winfield's impact in the secondary. So will the Bucs, going back to Baker Mayfield here, re-sign him and allow themselves to use the tag on Winfield? It's the pinned comment on today's video. Y for yes, N for no. Micah Hyde is one of good Bills free agents. Leonard Floyd, Terrell Dotson, Gabe Davis. Don't expect any of them to get tagged. Do keep an eye on for Christian Wilkins getting franchise tagged. It'd be expensive. You're just under that $20 million figure. But this is a player who has consistently put up impactful run defense and even this past year, pass rushing results. The tackles dropped from a ridiculous 98, which is an insane number for a defensive tackle. TFLs went down. Sacks went up. The DT market has exploded in recent years, and Wilkins is going to benefit from that. I don't know if Duggar is going to get tagged. That's Kyle Duggar, a big fan of his game, the Patriots safety. Arguments could maybe be made for Michael Onwenu, but as we'll get into, there's some O-line contract or franchise tag figures that are concerning there. Josh Uche could make some sense, but again, he's probably more expensive. I've always liked Duggar's game. I'm a sucker for those safeties that can kind of masquerade as linebackers, and Duggar does that really well. $17 million's a lot. I'm not sure he get that much on the open market, but I think he could get a big contract wherever he ends up signing. Bryce Huff is next up here. That is the Jets edge rusher, again listed as an outside linebacker. Under the radar, he's a pretty good player. Now, he doesn't bring you much in the run game, and that's why I think he's not going to get franchise tag, because he probably could command a 15, 16, 17 maybe $million deal maximum on the open market, not to the nearly $22 million figure, I think is a likely outcome there. But pass rushers are valuable, and they often get inflated contracts on the open market. 2024 is here in full swing, and that means it's time for a New Year's resolution check-in with our friends over at Manscaped. Guys, it's never too late to level up your grooming game and keep your bush tamed. Manscaped's all-new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is every man's cheat code to look good, feel good, and perform maybe a little bit better as well. Whether you're going for a trim or that clean-shaven look, this trimmer has you covered. It's trusted by over 10 million men worldwide. It's time to get a grip on your grooming, so there's a grip from somebody else on what you groomed. Go to Manscaped.com. That might be too far. Go to Manscaped.com/chat and use promo code chat for 20% off. That's free shipping and 20% off with code chat over at Manscaped.com. The Lawnmower 5.0 is the best in men's grooming. It's not just a trimmer. It's also your grooming sidekick. Equipped with 2 skin-safe blade heads, the standard one, sticking a little bit off the top, and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. Embrace a new you, and definitely embrace a new trimmer, courtesy of Manscaped. Link and promo code are going to be in the comments section and the description of today's show. I would anticipate Jalen Johnson getting franchise tagged by the Chicago Bears. He wants big money, justifiably so. He can command the $20 million-ish price tag figure. Does it make sense to allow him to hit the open market? Not when the tag is going to be roughly $18 million. He might not like getting tagged. That just makes too much sense for Chicago. He is a very talented number 1 corner. The Lions, not many great options here. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, good player, elite trash talker, not at $17 million. Keyshawn Nixon, again, it's the same cost as Jalen Johnson, but he's not nearly as good. Minnesota, in a normal contract setup, would have 2 players worthy of a franchise tag. As we'll get into, the best viable option, though, is Jordan Hicks, which you're obviously not going to do at $21.92 million. The reason being, 3 players cannot be franchise tagged by Minnesota. Their contracts will not void until after the franchise tag window closes, meaning they're under contract still technically. They cannot be tagged by virtue of their contract. So Kirk Cousins, Danielle Hunter, and Marcus Davenport, they changed Davenport one, I think, yesterday to bump back his void deadline to try to get an extension done. None of those 3 players can be tagged. They will hit the open market, barring an extension before those contracts void. So name a player, who you think ends up getting tagged. It could be from your team, could be from a different team. Sound off in the comments right now. Tyron Smith is next up here. That is the Cowboys tackle. Too much money for him and Tony Pollard and Stephon Gilmore. Not going to be used there. Saquon Barkley's tag, in most years, it'd be 120% of their last year's cap hit. The projected number is actually still higher than that, so it's going to stay at 12.42. The reports are he's not going to get franchise tagged. Wouldn't be a huge surprise to me. The running back market from where we were this time last year has gone the wrong way. That's why so many backs were upset. Barkley can be an impact football player. Maybe Houston throws, 3 years, $30 million at him, or a little bit more. I don't think the Giants are going to tag him here, which is, hey, we'll talk about the Daniel Jones stuff, I'm sure, in the future. But I think there's a real chance Barkley hits that open market. Same is true of DeAndre Swift. Again, $12 million is too much for a player of that caliber. I would monitor Kendall Fuller here. Starting to approach the upper echelon of his range, but he is a pretty darn good corner. Dan Quinn likes having good corners on his team, and he's been fairly consistent with his production. He's not a superstar player, but unless you're banking on a major breakout from Emmanuel Forbes, I think a Fuller extension or a tag at minimum could make some sense. Weird bug, not bug, but feature, I don't know what to call it, or reality. Offensive lineman tags all count the same, whether you're a tackle, guard, or center. It's a dumb feature. So Lloyd Cushenberry, who's a good center, would cost $21.7 million, which is like $7 million more than the highest paid center. Ain't going to happen. Now, L'Jarius Sneed, I think, is a far more likely franchise tag candidate than Chris Jones. The reason being, A, Sneed is younger and talented. There's money issues with the Chris Jones tag. Sneed is a fringe, if not outright all-pro caliber corner. He would command massive figures. I think what makes the most sense for the Chiefs, tag Sneed, and then work on an extension for Chris Jones, who says he wants to be back. His franchise tag would cost $32 million because of the way the final year of his deal was structured. You ain't tagging him at $32 million. There's just no way. So, Sneed stands out as the far more likely tag option. Josh Jacobs, again, because he got a little bit more than just the franchise tag in his final years with the Raiders, would cost $14.16 million after a regression year at the running back position. There will be a market for Josh Jacobs, but it's just not going to come at the $14 million franchise tag figure. The Chargers, look, they're not going to tag Austin Eckler. I don't have many good options here. Michael Davis, $18 million. It's an overpay for a corner who might get maybe half of that. NFL free agency is just around the corner. Do not miss out. Hit that sub button for more free NFL YouTube videos right here. I thought about Dalton Schultz here a lot for this spot, but the edge rusher is always more valuable. And Jonathan Grenard had a massive breakout campaign. After missing some time in 2022, played 15 games this year, 15 TFLs, 12.5 sacks. Again, I wouldn't be shocked if that edge figure dipped or defensive end figure dipped just slightly. But Grenard, as a pass rusher, is valuable. I could see the Texans want to keep him and Will Anderson together long term. I would fully anticipate a Michael Pittman franchise tag. Same figure cost as Tee Higgins. He's a 1,000-yard receiver who's averaged about 1,000 yards the past 3 seasons. You want to keep Anthony Richardson having some playmakers around him. I bet a tag gets applied closer to that March 5th deadline. Josh Allen, the other one, by the way. Again, this is the outside number slide. So you could see, if there's a difference between the cost of a linebacker and defensive end, you could see a dispute for how much the tag is going to go for. Those two sides might disagree. Allen took a massive jump forward this year. He's always been a very talented, promising pass rusher. These stats exploded from a pass rush perspective. Near 17.5 sacks, dude's going to get paid. By the way, of note on Calvin Ridley here, don't expect a tag. They can wait later and not pay as much on a draft pick wise and keep the third round pick, the second round pick if they let him hit free agency and then re-sign him. Derrick Henry's numbers is shockingly high. Again, it's the way the final year of the deal was structured. $19.64 million on that front. I still like Derrick Henry. You ain't paying him $19 million. You cut that number in half. We might be in the more realistic range of what he's going to command at his age and his workload. Still a very, very good football player. Part of the big 3 running backs this offseason. Who do you think is most likely to re-sign? DH for Derrick Henry, JJ for Josh Jacobs, SB for Saquon Barkley. We'll go kind of rapid fire here to wrap this up to a certain extent. Marquise Brown is a good player, but $21.67 million, that's a lot of money. Kevin Dotson is recklessly expensive because he benefits/hurts from the cost of being a guard. Not going to happen. Chase Young might re-sign in San Francisco, not for $23 million worth. And Jordan Brooks, a promising young outside linebacker, but paying the cost of that spot blurring with pass rushers, not going to tag him at that figure.